Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I actually really want to talk about The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2 because we actually we have some pretty cool information, and that is regarding Daryl Dixon and what seems to be sort of a hint at, I guess, the future of The Walking Dead, or at least, over the next like year or so, or maybe even a couple years. So I want to get into this here. So before going any further, obviously make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all of my Walking Dead content like this. And also, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet already, I definitely recommend doing so. Right now, our goal is 1,000 subs, and I'm hoping that we do get there eventually. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to take a lot of you guys and a lot of support. And our goal right now is to hit that by our anniversary for our podcast, which I believe is at the end of July, like July 26th or something like that. So it would be really cool. So yeah, again, I will leave a link down below to the podcast. The podcast is called the Empty Minds Podcast. And I hope to see you guys there. New episodes come out every single Monday. So let's get into what I wanted to talk about here. So I actually really wanted to talk about The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2 and what seems to be, I guess, the big focus here for AMC, and I guess this next like chapter or the next part here of the Walking Dead universe, and that is Daryl and Carol here. And so I saw this post online. A lot of people are posting this everywhere here, but yeah, there's like this post here that I saw where they said Carol and Daryl front and center, where they've always belonged. Then you just kind of see like obviously the background here of all three shows together. And obviously you see Daryl and Carol front and center, which I think says a lot, right? Like you have Maggie and Negan there, which obviously they're a part of the Walking Dead universe, but we're not going to see them until like early next year. I believe we'll probably get a trailer later on this year. I think basically, like the distance between the Ones Who Live and Daryl Dixon's premiere is going to be the same distance between the premiere of Daryl Dixon and the premiere of Dead City. I think they're going to space it all about 6 months apart. And so it's been about a month so far since it ended. And I think the show should be out in like 3 or 4 months from now. Probably about 3 months, 3.5 months, I'm guessing. But beforehand, we'll get the trailer, all the promotion, stuff like that. I actually did see that there was supposed to be something coming out next week. And so I'll do a video talking about that. We'll talk about just sort of what that could mean, like what are we going to get next week. I think a release date for sure, but yeah, I'll save that for that video. But yeah, we see Daryl and Carol here. And what I will say, and also we do see Rick and Michonne. So on that part, first of all, yes, we do see Rick and Michonne. We will see them at some point again in the future, and they might pop up here and there, just like in shows. I just did a video talking about this. I talked about the fact that maybe there's a possibility that Rick shows up in the very, last episode there of, well, not very last episode, but just like in one of the episodes of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2, right? Like maybe he shows up in a flashback with Carol, which is why Carol went to go look for Daryl because Rick came back home. And that's why Carol was talking on the radio to Daryl and about to say, like, Rick came back, right? And obviously I got cut off. So Carol has to go and find Daryl, which I think leads to the whole storyline that we saw from the synopsis of the show, saying that Carol's trying to convince Daryl to come home. Daryl doesn't want to. And I think that could lead to a flashback scene in which we see some of that with Carol and Rick, right? But that's just sort of an idea that I have. I think that'd be really cool. Getting back to, what we see here, obviously there's some sort of presentation going on here. And a lot of what this was, I believe anyways, don't take my word for this. I'm guessing here because I believe that this was sort of a talk about like the future of The Walking Dead, right? Like what the actual future of the franchise is going to be right now. And for the Walking Dead universe, it's going to be Daryl and Carol are going to be the big leads here of the universe, right? And so we have Daryl and Carol here. Obviously, this is footage from episode 1 or 2, or at some point there in the season. I mean, it's going to be a little bit later on in season 2 if you're looking at it, just because Daryl has the crossbow, right? Like Daryl actually has his crossbow back. So really amazing. It's just cool to see them. It's honestly just really cool to see them together. And they're actually together here. And I think this is going to change that show up quite a bit. It really is. And just the way that they do the show, it's going to be really incredible because they know how to write characters. They know how to make things very, very exciting. And I think that's what we're going to get. Like, it's actually going to seem very, very exciting. And I can't wait to see, how they're going to handle that story overall, because I remember, going back to season 10, I believe it was the bonus episodes, because around that point there is when they announced all the big changes for The Walking Dead, right? Like they said this was going to be the final season, and that we were actually going to be getting, spinoffs, a Daryl and Carol spinoff. And at that point, a lot of people watched episode, I think it was 21 of season 10. It was the Daryl and Carol episode. And it was basically, the episode was focused on Carol trying to find a mouse or a rat or whatever in her house. And it just became an episode about that. A lot of people didn't like that episode. Daryl was there as well throughout the episode. Just a lot of people did not like that. And they were like, wow, is this going to be the spinoff, right? Like, is this actually going to be the spinoff? And remember, back then, the idea of doing a Walking Dead spinoff was definitely not really well received because the only ones we got were like World Beyond, Fear the Walking Dead, which had its good moments, but overall is very, very mixed. Not a lot of people like it. So I think that, yeah, obviously people were concerned. But now that we have the actual spinoffs, we saw Daryl Dixon and Dead City and The Ones Who Live. We see the quality now that they're putting out, right? So I think that is what you can really expect from this here. And I'm excited to see how the writers, because again, they're all new writers from The Walking Dead. Like really, it's just all brand new people writing this. And if you saw how Daryl Dixon season 1 was, I mean, really incredible, right? I think that they're going to be able to write this and have everything just make sense and actually be very entertaining to watch. And I'm excited. I definitely am very excited to have Daryl and Carol together. So what I also wanted to talk about was the fact that Daryl Dixon does seem to be sort of the future of The Walking Dead in general. And I just, Daryl, I feel like hasn't gotten as, I don't want to say like he hasn't been recognized as much as Rick Grimes has, because Rick Grimes did start everything. But the thing with Rick Grimes is that he does have sort of it's so hard because it's the whole like Rick versus Daryl, in terms of, being a lead character. Like who's the better lead character, right? Rick or Daryl? And obviously you would want to say Rick. I think Rick Grimes definitely is the better lead character, but Daryl Dixon, like the Walking Dead Daryl Dixon spinoff, it really showed me how great of a character Daryl is. And I think before that, it was sort of hard to see that sometimes. Like he tried to take over as a lead on The Walking Dead. And I just think that it wasn't really his show, like to lead, I mean. And so they sort of split the responsibilities with other characters. And now with this show, obviously in season 2, it's going to be different because Carol will be there. But you saw that in season 1, that I think Daryl really is... He's a great lead character. He's such a great lead character. Also, he is very popular. I do believe Daryl, out of all the characters, is more popular than Rick, which is very interesting. And I say that because of, just how popular of a character he is just among fans that don't really watch The Walking Dead that much. Like out of all characters, everybody knows who Daryl is and everybody knows who Negan is, right? And it's because of their weapons. It's because they have like this iconic look. Rick doesn't really necessarily have that iconic look. Like he kind of does. He has the python, right? But it's not necessarily that iconic. I think that is more for hardcore Walking Dead fans, right? Or just general Walking Dead fans. Like they like Rick because of that. If anything, the name Rick Grimes, it, sounds very cool. But Daryl Dixon as well also, and also I just look at it like Norman Reedus has been in a lot more stuff as well. So there is that argument, right? Norman Reedus has been in quite a bit of stuff and is in a lot of games and has a lot of, I guess he's just more relevant, I would say, in general, to everybody. And so to have Daryl leading the Walking Dead universe, I don't think is a bad thing, right? So, seeing this tweet right here, it's kind of cool to see. It really is kind of cool to see because I remember going back to season 3, like season 2, 3, well, 3 or 4, I would say, Daryl really took over. People were becoming big fans of Daryl. And honestly, like at that point, it felt like The Walking Dead was going to continue for a long time. A lot of people didn't focus on Rick that much. A lot of the focus was on Daryl, right? Rick became way more, the main focus later on. But at this point here, it really was Daryl. He was like the big character that everyone just loved. And so I could see the future of the franchise really just focusing on him as the leader of all of this here. And I think that, honestly, I don't think that's a bad thing here. And obviously AMC doesn't as well because they're sort of promoting it like that, right? Like this is the future of The Walking Dead. And they have Daryl and Carol, just sort of the lead to that. And I am really wondering when news about this event that happened. It's like, I think it was called AMC's Upfront event. And I remember this happened last year and then we didn't get a bunch of information about it for like a couple of weeks. So I think in the next like week or two, there's going to be like news that does come out. And I think that, yeah, we'll learn a lot more about just, I guess just newer details there. But anyways, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get more Walking Dead content like this. And again, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet, I definitely recommend doing so. We're also available on Spotify as well. So there is that. If you do prefer to listen to podcasts on Spotify or Apple Music, we are there as well. But yeah, definitely go subscribe on YouTube. I will leave a link down below in the description of this video. And yeah, hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Tomorrow's videos, I do believe, are going to focus a lot more on The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon's, I guess, new promo material that is going to be coming out, because there's going to be quite a bit of stuff. I also do want to do some stuff on The Ones Who Live and talk about where they can go with Rick Grimes next, because I do want to talk about Mason Beale, Major General Beale's son, and get into some ideas there, because I haven't talked about that yet. But anyways, yeah, thanks so much for watching.